So I realize that doing a movie review on Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker maybe doesn't fit exactly into the profile of my channel, but I'm going to loosely tie that all together, seeing how it is a Disney-owned property and it does directly tie into the park. So work with me here on this one.
I always wondered if the stories were real. Now I wonder what you're doing on Batuu. As you were.
But I do want to kind of share my thoughts and feelings about The Rise of Skywalker now that the Skywalker saga of Star Wars has ended. So if you haven't seen the movie, probably don't watch this because I am going to talk about plot points within that movie, and you can come back later and watch it if you care. So I kind of just went in without really high expectations like I did with The Last Jedi. Now, I will say up front that once the movie was over and the credits were rolling, I stood up and I resolutely knew where I stood on the movie, and that is I did not like it. I didn't like this movie at all. There were a couple of redeeming things and redeeming moments in it, but not enough to make me enjoy the entire movie. I didn't feel that way after The Last Jedi, but I felt that way. It was distinct how I felt at the end of this. And let me kind of walk you through some of the things that I didn't like first about The Rise of Skywalker. And let's just say the entire first act. The ideas in the first act were great. The visualization in there was awesome. The pacing of the scenes individually was thrilling, but tie that all together and it felt like a bunch of rushed exposition to try to get us caught up to where we needed to be. Usually in a Star Wars movie that happens in the opening crawl, just kind of narrates to you what's happened, but it seemed like the opening crawl wasn't enough and they needed to cram a good 20 minutes down our throat of things that were going so fast that after the first act, I was a little bit confused as to what just happened. I knew we were chasing after this holocron, or what they referred to as the Sith Wayfinder, to try to find their way back to this Sith temple and just all of that stuff. Even now as I'm talking about it, I'm still a little confused as to how that all laced together. But nonetheless, I felt like the timing and the pacing and all of the constant jumping from planet to planet was distracting and hard to swallow. It felt like you were drinking the first act through a fire hose, and I didn't enjoy that, and it wasn't typically Star Wars. Star Wars, if you go back and you watch the movies, it takes its time to help you understand why these things are important and why these things are happening.
Patience! For the Jedi, it is time to eat as well.
And this was no why, it was all what. So I didn't really care for the first act. Now, I think, and the thing that I was talking to my family about after I saw this, they wanted to know where did it go wrong. And I will tell you the moment in which I rolled my eyes and I just thought, this isn't going to get any better. And that was when the transport ship that had Chewbacca, or what we thought was Chewbacca on it, started to take off from the planet, and Rey reaches up with the Force and stalls it and starts to pull it back down. And then there was this Force tug of war between she and Kylo Ren on getting the spaceship down, and then off shoots the lightning out of her hands and she destroys the transport, and we're left to think that Chewbacca is dead. I just felt like that was over the top. I felt like, again, Rey is too powerful too quickly. I have no investment in her powers because I've not been given a reason over the 3 movies to invest myself in that, because she can just do everything all the time. And during the little training montage that she had in the first act, you could see that she was struggling against the little droid thing that she was doing lightsaber drills with. But that wasn't enough. That's not enough struggle from Rey. And so I felt like all of a sudden just grabbing a ship that was on its way off, we hadn't seen before, and it was just over the top. And at that point I was like, yeah, here we go again.
I have a very bad feeling about this.
No explanation as to why she's all powerful. And sure, we can wipe that away with saying that she's the granddaughter of Palpatine and is just innately strong. But, you know, here was Anakin Skywalker that was supposed to be one of these all-powerful people, but he had to go through training. He had to learn how to control the Force. He had to do all of that, and we got to see it, and we got to understand it, and we got to see weaknesses both in character.
I don't like sand.
And in strength.
It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
And in the Force. And we didn't get a chance to see any of that with Rey. I don't know once we saw any moment of weakness that made us care about her development in the Force. And then this grabbing the spaceship just, I was done with how I felt about Rey and the Force. And the other thing that irritated me is why can she grab a spaceship out of the sky, but when they're sinking in that weird quicksand and they were panicked that they were going to die, could she just not force raise them out of the quicksand? I don't get it. It's, you know, you're powerful when you want to be, and when it doesn't serve the plot, then you're not. And that's the problem. That's the problem I see with giving her that sort of ability so quickly, is that then you start seeing the other holes in what she's doing along the lines and when she can and cannot use the Force, which doesn't make any sense because you don't know why it made sense to begin with, that she knew it innately and didn't need any training.
So what I told you was true, from a certain point of view.
A certain point of view?
So that was the turning point. That was the definite sealer for me, that I thought this is where I am not happy with where we're going with this.
No.
Didn't make sense why the Sith Wayfinder was in the old Death Star, and that weird knife that pointed it out seemed, you know, it's like, here's the knife, and Rey pulls it out, of course, because she can do everything all the time with no struggle at all. She pulls this little tab out, and sure enough, it's a map to show her exactly where that holocron is, you know.
Right there!
Luke Skywalker couldn't find it. He was too stupid, but here comes Rey, and she can do everything. And of course, there we go. Off we find it. It just, I didn't think I'd be this irritated as I was talking about it, but as I'm talking about it, I am getting a little more irritated with what I saw. Another big major thing that I didn't enjoy was that we brought Palpatine back. I don't understand that choice. It feels like it completely wipes out the essence of what the first 6 movies contained. Anakin Skywalker was going to bring balance to the Force. He killed the Emperor and saved his son, and he was redeemed. And balance was brought back to the Force. Why did we bring Palpatine back? Why are we saying he didn't die? That just kind of, then was Anakin really the chosen one, or is Rey the chosen one? If she is, then why did we even have the first 6 movies? He's just another person doing another thing, and apparently every once in a while, a Skywalker's going to walk in and kill an Emperor that won't die. And so I felt like this was a poor choice. I felt like perhaps they felt trapped in the storyline because Snoke was gone, and they needed to come up with something fast that would resonate with people and with fans, but it didn't resonate with me. It kind of angered me. His story was over, and that leads me to the next thing that I did not like about this movie, and that is dying doesn't seem to matter anymore in the Star Wars universe, because you can be force healed and force resurrected, and you can have your essence travel from one to another, and you can become other people and bring them back to life. I mean, how many times did we see people die in this movie that didn't really die? And even figuratively, Chewbacca dies, and then he really didn't. Ha ha ha, there he is. And it was like 2 minutes later that we learned that he didn't pass away. That didn't even have time to sink in. And the thing is, I was like, oh my gosh, they just killed off Chewbacca. And I can't believe that's the way he exits the saga. And instead of giving the characters and me time to process that, it was like, oh, boop, there he is. Sorry, he didn't really die. What? That was just a fake out on the part of the movie. And it just, not good. And just Star Wars, can we please let people die? There's as a plot device inside of a story, death of main characters and death of people that you care about, and even the villains, holds significance and there's purpose behind it. But once you keep bringing them back to life, Darth Maul, I don't get it. Let's quit bringing people back and let's just kind of push that little force power into the closet again, because we don't need it. It doesn't help us. It doesn't serve stories like, in my opinion, I think you think they do. Let's see what else I didn't like. Well, I love the dynamic between the trio that should have happened all the way back up to Force Awakens, but for sure should have been occurring within The Last Jedi, instead of sending them all off on their ridiculous things on their own and pointless trips to casino planets and, fighting with purple-haired generals of the Resistance. We just wasted a lot of time. And then all of a sudden in this movie, they try to bring them all together and try to make a cohesive unit, but it fails because there's not enough time. There's not enough investment on our part as an audience to care about the dynamic of these people. And so it felt forced. And then it felt like in order to get that accomplished very quickly, we were turning them into funny people.
Oh, they fly now! They fly now! They fly now!
And it just didn't seem to fit in the whole Star Wars thing, at least not the Star Wars that I enjoy. So those are, I think, were the major things that I didn't enjoy. We shouldn't have brought back Palpatine. We should have probably increased Kylo Ren as a bigger threat and a more evil person, even though, and I'll get to this, I loved what they did with Kylo Ren in this. And, the callbacks, the fan service, we saw all of that in The Force Awakens, and we didn't need to see it all again. Give us something new. Give us somewhere to go. Give these characters something interesting. Let's quit having a Death Star. We didn't need to see the wreckage of the Death Star. Let's find the holocron somewhere else. And for crying out loud, can we please quit developing weapons that are going to kill entire planets, because that's the biggest threat and everyone's going to die. There's got to be a better story in there somewhere that you can tell. And it just wore thin on me. Now, the things that I did enjoy, or the thing that I enjoyed, was the development of Kylo Ren's character. I felt that was an intriguing arc. I felt like he's had an arc through all three movies. He's the only one that really has, where it's interesting and he struggled. That to me is a true story of someone who is struggling between good and evil.
I'm being torn apart. I want to be free of this pain.
And you see that in Rey, but not as developed as it was in Kylo Ren.
I know what I have to do, but I don't know if I have the strength to do it.
And so I really enjoyed that portion of this. I feel like the entire trilogy should have been more focused on Kylo and less on Rey. If that's where Rey was going to end up, was just this all-powerful whatever she was. I felt like Kylo's story was something a little more interesting to follow. I'm just glad that this trilogy is over, and I'm glad that it's wrapped up so we can move on. This last trilogy was just a crumpled up wad of who knows what. And I'm okay. Just like Luke with the lightsaber in the Force, or in the beginning of Last Jedi, handed to me, and I'm just going to chuck it over my shoulder, because as Rian Johnson drilled home to us,
It's time to let old things die.
none of this really matters. So that doesn't matter to me. I am sticking with the original trilogy as my Star Wars.
No, you're still Holding on! Let go!
I love The Mandalorian. Can't wait for Obi-Wan Kenobi. Can't wait for the Rogue One spinoff TV series. And I really think that they're really making an effort to kind of get back to the core of what Star Wars is and what true storytelling is. With The Last Jedi and with The Rise of Skywalker, I think I'm done. I think I've had enough. And unfortunately, what that's done is it's made me not care at all about The Force Awakens because it set up a story that didn't go anywhere. So those are my thoughts and my feelings on The Rise of Skywalker and on the end of this the Skywalker saga. I don't believe for 1 second we're done. They say that this wrapped it up, but it left Rey as a Skywalker. And I wouldn't put it past the studios to come back in 10 years and go get those lightsabers out of the ground in Tatooine and resurrect the Skywalker series. Things have been done before. We never thought we were going to get another trilogy because George Lucas said Return of the Jedi was the end, and here we are. So I don't believe for a second we're done, but we're done for now. And I'm glad because maybe in the future, if we get something else that sticks to this portion of the mythology, it will kind of ignore what just happened in the last 3 movies. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Let me know what you thought about The Rise of Skywalker, and have a great day.